Hey, beautiful people. How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? I hope everybody is, in fact, magically delicious and highly flavored. I know I am. Anywho, listen, today we are going to be talking about what you never learned about money. And let's be real here. A lot of you have never learned about money. Let me tell you how I know. I was in banking for a lot of you. Thank you. Ooh, sorry, y'all. We're going to talk about that later. But a lot of you all don't realize that I've been banking for probably the last 3 years. Um, and with me being in business as long as I have, I can assure you that I think that we're having some system problems. You know what? While we check on that, let's go ahead and do this. I am a queen from beginning to end. I don't need you to lose for me to win. I am that fire, that magic, that bold, that command your soul within. I got money from checks I cash. I got talent. This shit gon' last. I be granted wishes, dear sons and daughters. Tell y'all go hush now, like blue ivy garden. I'm the thing to tell yourself. I'm good for your health. I'm good for your wealth. I'm the thing to tell yourself. I'm your. I am a queen from beginning to end. I don't need you to lose for me to win. I am that fire, that magic, that bold, that. Y'all, we are having problems. I don't know what's going on. We about to figure this out right now. We're going to try this one last time. Hello, beautiful people. I hope you all are, in fact, magically delicious, blessed, and highly flavored. Now, you all have seen me make a complete fool of myself this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending on what time you're watching. But we're going to try this one last time. Y'all ready? I am a queen from beginning to end. I don't need you to lose for me to win. I am that fire, that magic, that bold, that command your soul within. I got money from checks I cash. I got talent. This shit gon' last. I be granted wishes, dear sons and daughters. Tell y'all go hush now, like blue ivy garden. I'm the thing to tell yourself. I'm good for your health. I'm good for your wealth. I'm the thing to tell yourself. I'm your mama. I'm your sister. I'm your auntie. I'm your daughter. I am beauty. Show no ugly. Follow me. I'll take you back. I am the light in the night time, giving you life. Yes, I ride for my bloodline. We just wanted to have one of those days, did we not? And we did. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about what you never learned about money. And like I was saying before, I was so interrupted, so rudely interrupted by me. I used to be in banking for probably about what, 600 years. And I learned that the majority of the people that would come in on a regular basis knew absolutely nothing about their own bank account and how money worked. That being said, today we're going to be talking to an amazing human. His name is Mr. Jua Williams. Now, I'm going to tell y'all a secret: strong enough for a man, but pH balance for a woman. I have known this man for the majority of my life. He is amazing. He's one of those people that everybody wants to know and everybody wants to hang with, right? But in addition to that, he knows his shit. And that is one of the reasons that we have him on here today, because he is going to tell you a thing or two about what? A thing or two. But before I introduce you to Mr. Jua Williams, I hope you don't mind. We need to pay a bill. This ain't your everyday ugly. Listen, it's a lifestyle, a movement, and a brand. Get your ugly gear at aprilsampe.com. That's aprilsampe.com. Ugly. Understand God loves you. Hey, Mr. Williams, how you doing?
What's going on, sis? How you doing? April, what's up?
Listen, I'm absolutely awesome. I'm like, what is going on? We are having some technical problems up in the building.
It's all right. I was still grooving to the intro. You know, I got money from Checks I Cash. Let's get into it.
Listen, Jua, did you know that I used to have a singing group? I used to have a band by the name of Cut the Check.
I do remember.
And do you know that before I even met them, that was the name of the band, but I was in banking. I thought it was great. And it was amazing because I remember that day that you came and you played the tambourines for us. I'm just joking.
I was about to say, I don't remember playing no tambourines now.
So tell us
a little bit. Going to a lot of the shows. I do remember I got money from the Checks I Cash. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, listen, from everything that you know about cash and checks, running banks, you know the ins and outs about how they work and kind of what people don't know, right? Like the questions that people come in and ask on a regular basis. You kind of know those answers, right?
Definitely. You know, I think you started in banking before I did, but you know, I decided to turn it into a career. At first, it was just a job, and I don't think I would know the things that I know about money had I not worked at the bank, right? These are not the things, unfortunately, that many of us were taught growing up, right? I mean, we may have picked up some bad habits, but nobody ever sat me down intentionally and explained to me how money works or how to make money work for you, right? So that was never taught. I had to learn the hard way. Most of us did. And so I was lucky. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be on the inside, so to speak, and to begin to learn even from the very basics of transactions and how they post to your account, all the way to some of the rules to money management. And then, of course, moving on to, you know, becoming an entrepreneur and being able to just continue to get the bag, as they say. So it's been over, 20 years. It's been over 20 years.
You've been banking over 20 years?
2000. Started there as 2000, my first job in banking. So that time flies by pretty quickly. But like you said, I see a lot. I learned a lot. I see a lot. I come from a background of educators. You know, it's instilled in you already know this, April, about us. It's instilled each one teach one, right? Whatever your knowledge is, whatever you experience, it's your duty, right, to be able to give back and share that with other people to make sure that they are empowered and they can reach their goals and be better, right? So that's just kind of how, the more I learned and the more I educated people or explained to people my understanding of money, then I watched the gratitude that came in. I watched how grateful people were for just explaining some basic concepts. And I realized the more that I learn, the more that I can help, the more grateful people will be. So that's always been kind of what I've been chasing, right? That's been my high, is just making sure that people show their gratitude, So I East River, having the old ladies bring the sweet potato pies and, you know what I mean, bringing their family in, because I took the time out when nobody else would, not just taking the time out, but explaining it in a way that makes sense. And so, yeah, that's been what I've been doing up until today. I've worked for two of the largest financial firms, in the country, even some say even in the world. And so, seen a lot for sure. So hopefully this information right here is going to be useful. It's not talked about enough from all ages. And of course, it's better to start young, but for those grown folk out there, then take this away and make sure you pass it on, to your little ones, because it's never too young to start. So
You know what? The fact that you said, I'm going to talk about the fact that you talked about pies and people delivering pies, right? I know that that's like really random, but people would deliver pies oftentimes around this time of year.
There
This
you
is the
go.
holiday season, okay? And this is the busy season in banking. Busy when it comes to check cashing and fraud, right? So if somebody, I just want to put this out there. I think this is the first thing that I really want to talk about. What is the craziest thing that you've seen in the banking world where people, that people will do around this time of year, so that we can avoid having any issues come Christmas time?
Yeah, I mean the two things, like you said. So just impulse decision, first of all, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is a time of impulse. This is a time of celebration. It's a time to be with family, and it's of course a time to shine, right? Because unfortunately, we are measured by what we can do for others. We're measured by what we can basically show, right? Our reward for our success usually is measured by the things that we have, and so there's no other. One of the best ways to show what we have is to give to others and also to shine ourselves. And so, one of the biggest mistakes that I see during the holiday time is people going into debt or having impulse decisions that really affect their finances, right? So that's one of the things that I see a lot. And then, of course, this is the scamming season, right? People get money however they can. And so this is certainly the scamming season in this day and age where we're digital, where everything is done electronically, where it's easier for folks to hack into, get access to your usernames, your passwords. So, I'm trying to think of the craziest thing that I've seen. To me, it's funny because people who impersonate or present themselves like, oh, I'm close to your loved one. We out here in school or in college or wherever it may be. Like, especially elderly people. Elderly people get that email that says, hey, I'm close to your grandson. I'm his roommate in school. He had a horrible accident, and you just got to, emergency. I need help. So creating a sense of fear, creating that emergency, creating, getting that call to action to people based on a loved one being in need. That one seems to get a great response. And even when they come into the bank, right? When an older people come into the bank, and you start asking some questions and say, wait a minute, you're coming in here to send out more money than you've ever sent before out of your account. Have you ever met this person that's asking you this? No, but my grandson is in trouble. I'm like, okay, let's calm all the way down for a minute. So you kind of talk them through it. But even then, they would rather, they don't want to listen to you. They just met you, the email is coming from a stranger, but it's talking about somebody that they love and care about, and the possibility that they could do something and they don't. That's more frightening than them losing their life savings. And so that right there is scary. It also makes you angry because a lot of folks that are targeted, obviously, or that get to the point of actually sending the money, so digital and online banking services can be both a gift and a curse because they make it really easy for you to move money, but it also makes it easy for somebody else to get in, to have access to your money and be able to send that money as well. So those are the things that I see around the holidays. And impulse buying really just comes around. So it's funny you talk about the holidays and pies, right? Because the holiday season also is the time for eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, if you made a commitment to yourself to be able to go to start eating healthy and doing better physically, and then here come Thanksgiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, yams, right?
Don't you bring up the meat part, but that's okay.
But right when you tell yourself you're going to do better, then here comes the temptation right in your face.
Black Friday.
Oh my goodness. So, and then the desire to want to be able to give gifts and to be able to shine and to be able to show that you have, and so those two things I think are extremely important. People that come into the bank in order to go into debt, apply for credit, borrow money just for the holidays, right? It comes around every year, so rather than kind of planning for it every year, a lot of times we wait we wait until the holidays are upon us and we start having these acts of desperation or acts of impulse that will send us into debt. And then we're trying to pay that back throughout the rest of the year. So those are the two things throughout the holidays that I think are, scams are on the rise, and impulse purchases, impulse decisions are definitely on the rise, and both of them can hurt you financially.
I like the fact that you brought up um, the person closest to you, right? Because I've been hearing a lot about that. Exactly what you said. Like a family member is in some kind of dire need, right? So I'm bringing this back up because all of the people who are watching, please make sure that you check on your parents, your grandparents. Please make sure you check on your children who are away at college, because a lot of them are looking out for someone. 'Tis the season to be looking out for someone, right? And so they're not thinking about it. And I'm very glad that you brought that point up. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit to social media, because we are always on our phones. Our phones are connected to our hands. Like some people, their hand is just formed to hold their phone, right? And so, because of that, it scares me how many things I watch on the social media where people are saying things along the lines of, where people are saying things along the lines of, all you have to do is go to the bank and you can get $50,000 by getting a new a new business account or setting up a new business. It's very simple. It's very easy. You just walk into the bank and this can happen. So can you please kind of set the record straight and tell us exactly what that means and how it works?
Most definitely. I just saw my brother Craig though chime in. What's going on, Craig?
Hey,
Big
Craig.
up to you. Big up, brother. Big up.
Hey, Micheline. Hey, Nana. Hey, Cece. Sorry. Go ahead.
But it's all right. It's all right. But yeah, it's funny because in this information age, like you said, we have the power in the palm of our hand in order to be educated and informed. And you would think we would be, better informed than we are, but unfortunately, garbage in, garbage out. A lot of the information that's out there and available to people is either it's either in part, right? It's like a very small portion of what you need, and it's not the full story. It doesn't walk you through all of the steps. It's not realistic, right? They're like some 30-minute TikTok that tells you to go get an EIN number and an LLC and then go to the bank to get money. Okay, that's partially true, but there's a whole lot that was left out of that, right? So I think that the thing that I'll say about social media, and one of the things that I've noticed in 20 years of doing this, is that the great thing about it is that it's made investments and access to how you can plan for the future a lot easier. It used to be, if you wanted to invest money for a long term, you had to, deal with a licensed professional who took a percentage of your money, who, managed a brokerage account or something, So now that these apps have popped up where all you have to do is log in, provide some personal identifiable information, and you can start earning money, cut out the middleman, you can learn on your own. So it's created an interest, at least. There's an interest level there that I've never seen before, especially in young people, when it comes to them wanting to figure out different things to do with their money. So that's one of the great things about social media, is that it is making a lot of positive impact, especially with young folks. And because they're in their phone a lot, some of the information is not coming from us, the older generation, that we're not passing on to them. They're getting it on their own, right? And like I said, it's both a gift and a curse, because some of what they're getting, though, a lot of what people are getting, actually, the stuff that's more prominent is actually the garbage. And so I see it on a daily basis where people come in with their EIN number, they register their business with the state, and they say, yeah, I heard this is the place to be in order to get $50,000 for my new business. Yeah, it doesn't exactly work that way. So one of the things that I'll say is, if social media sparks your interest, it should only spark your interest in order to go to that next step, to actually seek out a professional and ask some more questions. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to reference the little bit of information that you have already. This is what I learned. This is where I learned it from. I'm here in order to learn more. That's a better place to start from let social media, create a sense of urgency, get you interested in money, get you interested in different ways for you to earn and make money. Let that be the case. But social media is not really, there's no 30-second solution to getting paid. Like that just doesn't exist, right? So if you saw something and it takes you somewhere else, that's great. But consider the credibility of the people that are giving you this information. Consider who it is that's giving you the information. Make sure it's coming from a credible source, somebody who knows what they're talking about. Research them. Just the fact that you're learning and researching is a great thing, but don't just, nothing is easy, or there are no simple steps. Mm-hmm. You can make it happen, but seek out a professional, somebody with credibility, somebody that can give you some advice. Don't just rely on the information that's out there after just 30 seconds of scrolling. You're not going to scroll and figure out the secrets to wealth, right? So that's what I was
saying. Wait. So I just want to make sure I understand this properly. So what you're telling me is I've been on Instagram, TikTok. I was there for what? The last minute. I was there for a whole minute. So you telling me in the last minute I can learn how to make $500,000?
Again, you might get a nugget. You might get a nugget or two, right? You might get some jewels that really kind of hit home. But let that be the motivation to go and learn more, because it's funny because the rules have not changed, even though the technology and the tools are different, right? So when we were coming up, we didn't have social media. But you heard it all the time. If you're trying to get rich quick, trust me, it's not going to getting rich quick never worked out, right? We had to learn, even though you think, okay, well, that was that person who suffered their consequences. I'm not going to suffer those consequences. I'm going to get rich quick. Like we even were too smart for our own good, right? So it's the same thing. It's just that now, like you said, it's coming through the palm of your hand. Information age is we still have that mentality of, man, I can get rich quick because they told me so while I was scrolling. It wasn't 30 seconds. It was a minute and 30 seconds. So I spent a lot of time behind this. And you know what I mean? So there is no get rich quick. It's going to require you to do some research, seek out some professionals, and put some work behind it.
So I know that there are other ones out there as it relates to social media. So like, what other things are you seeing that people are just kind of drawn to that maybe you can shed some light on?
Well, listen, everybody wants access to capital. People are drawn to the ways for you to get access to money, right? Mm-hmm. And so how can I do that as myself with me and my social and, my pay stub? How can I get access to money? And then, of course, if you become a business. So that's, again, one of the things I noticed during the pandemic, whether it was the PPP boys or not, everybody wanted to become an entrepreneur, right? Sometimes out of necessity, but I think one of the greatest things, to me, this is like the closest thing to reparations that happened, because during the pandemic, right, per household, depending on the kids that were in the household, the number of adults and the number of children that were in the household, there was significant money, right, coming into households during the pandemic. What you did with it, though, right, because I call it paper tag season. That's what I call tax season. February come around, you're going to see a lot of paper tags. During the pandemic, when the stimulus checks were coming, you saw a lot of paper tags. It's paper tag season. So some people decided to go and purchase things, but some people decided to pool their money together, plan, and grow. I mean, I met people who, retired early, quit their jobs, their day jobs, because they linked up with their circle in their village, pooled their money together, and started businesses that were able to flourish. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs were created from that. And so everybody then wants access to capital. That's where you have to start. So where do you go to get there? So one of the things, of course, that the misconception, like you said, is going to a big bank. A traditional bank is typically not going to offer money to a startup business. Big banks have the luxury of dealing with so many people that they can afford to be unapologetic of telling a lot of people no, right? Like, you're not the customer that we're looking to serve. There's enough people who already fit our criteria of 2 years tax returns, been in business long enough to show that your profits are increasing year over year. There are enough people out there who fit that criteria that, guess what? If you don't fit it, we're going to tell you no, and we're not going to feel any kind of way about it, because we're not going to lose business. There's they've already done the calculation. So what you have to do is look into your community, right? Because through the Small Business Association, they have funds that have been dispersed out to nonprofit agencies, to community organizations for the sole purpose, places like the Urban League, places that are considered the CDFIs, right? Community Development Financial Institutions that are required, that have already been funded, and their mission and their purpose is a lot different. Because a lot of times what they're looking to do is to be able to say, hey, our only mission is to help people start up a business and eliminate the greatest barrier, which is capital. So there are, Life Asset is one of the greatest ones that I've referred people to. Life Asset even offers an auto loan if you're going to be using it for your business. It doesn't go above a certain percentage rate, and it's lower than any percentage rate that's out here. And so,
can anybody have access to Life Asset? Like, is that anywhere across the U.S.?
So, Life Asset is in D.C. and Maryland. You have to be a D.C. or Maryland resident. So, if you are in the DMV, you're looking at Life Asset. So, I am, I'm operating out of Washington D.C., primarily in Ward 7 and Ward 8, but I've know a lot of resources that primarily are in Washington D.C. But most of them are powered by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, which is obviously a federal agency, right? And so they do this in communities all around the country. So even though I'm name dropping some that are right here in the DMV, all you have to do is go and look for the CDFIs that are in your area in order to look to see what programs they have in place. Many of them, like I said, they serve a different purpose. Some of them just want to improve your credit. And so they'll give you access to capital in order to see how your credit improves over time because you're paying back the loan, right? And so if the goal is I need money to start a business or I need money to achieve my goals, don't just walk into the big banks. The other misconception when it comes to learning from social media, so there's a major difference that people need to know about between a bank and a credit union.
Oh, wait, that's a good one. What's the difference?
So, a bank is a for-profit institution. Its sole purpose is to make money in order to please the shareholders. But the credit union is a nonprofit agency. Nonprofits take everything that they earn and they redistribute it back out to its members. That's why you're not a customer or a client at a credit union, you're a member. As a member and them redistributing their profits out to the members, it makes it easier for you to get approved for a loan at a better rate, a larger amount. Having that relationship with a credit union, you're going to find that if you go to them in order to borrow money, you're going to have a much better experience. Like I just mentioned, the reason why the banks are unapologetic about the customer base that they're looking for is because they're going to earn a profit from them. And they're not there to please the customer. They're there to please the shareholder. Whereas the credit unions are there to please its members and make sure that their members grow, develop, and reach their goals. And so that's something that I always point out to people, that you really should have both. Okay, you still should. The one thing that the big banks offer you is the opportunity to move and manage your money seamlessly. Even though the credit unions are catching up to the digital age and having 24-hour customer service or having a footprint all over the country, right? So as your life starts to grow and expand, you're going to have to then, a credit union may not serve your purpose. So, but I wanted to make sure I make that distinction. But more importantly, if you're looking for access to capital, which is what you need in order to get started, then if you haven't already been doing it for some years and ready to move to the next level, the bank may not be the place to start, but there's a lot of money out there. They call them micro loans that come from the community organizations. They can go up to $10,000, right? So that's pretty significant. I've seen people who started a plumbing company because they already, right, had gone through their apprenticeship program. They already were in the union. They broke off to do something on their own. That $10,000 allowed them to get the transportation and the tools they needed, a T-shirt with their company name on it. And marketing is free these days. You talk about social media. Again, that's one of the positives about it because marketing is free. And so they were able to start a business with $10,000 and make it grow rapidly. And so, yeah, it's been a great thing.
I'm glad you touched on that because a lot of people really don't pay attention to what's going on in their community and how to your point, with the SBA, with any other programs, that if you go to your local, is that me or you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. If you just focus on what's going on in your area, you can potentially grow your business, start a business, grow your money. In the words of my good girlfriend, Constance Carter, she always says, grow your money and don't blow your money. And she has a few books out that are teaching people how to build and establish their credit. So sometimes you need people like you, people like her, to make sure that you're doing all of the necessary things to increase your own knowledge, right? So thank you so much for that. I wanted to talk about budgeting because, again, we're going into the holiday season, and so many people have completely forgotten that that's a word or that that's a thing, and budget is not a bad word. So, are there any tips and tricks that you can help people with to become better at budgeting and making sure that they're saving?
First of all, just have one and use it,
Oh,
because it's different to have one, but just because you have it doesn't mean you use it.
okay.
It's funny because recently I was in a car with a friend of mine who thought he knew where he was going, but refused to turn on the GPS. Like, just refused. I know I'm going. Why don't you just, like, this is 2023. I put the GPS on everywhere I'm going, even if I think I already know where I'm going. And it's frustrating to sit and watch the driver not use the GPS when you're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to get to a destination, right? You have a place that you're trying to go to, and there's a tool here that will help you navigate. It doesn't just tell you like the way to go, but it also will tell you where the police are, where the speed
Come through waves.
Right? What's that?
I said, come through waves.
You see what I mean? So even if I've been there 3,000 times, I'm going to turn on my GPS because it's going to help me. I know where the police are. I know where the traffic is. I know if I need to adjust my route, right, and make changes. So to me, that's what the budget is. So if you have a goal for your month, first of all, you have to have a goal. In order to have a plan, you first have to have a goal and a destination, something that you're trying to reach and achieve. Because without that, it's going to be difficult to have the discipline you need in order to stick to it and actually, see it through. So first of all, you have to figure out a goal that you have for yourself. Are you trying to start a business? Are you trying to, just save an emergency fund? What is the goal that you have for yourself? What is that money going to do for you? And so that's what the budget is. The budget is not just the roadmap that's going to help you to get to the destination. It's not just that GPS system, but what it's going to show you along the way as you're tracking your spending, as you're looking at your budget on a monthly basis, weekly basis, to see how well you adhere to it. What you can start to see is some of the changes that you need to make, some of the pitfalls that may exist, right? You may have to adjust, just like the GPS, to figure out a different route. So if you're looking at ways to save money, if you're looking at, because the goal, of course, if you have a goal to save a certain amount of money, a budget really is meant to be used on a monthly basis. But the goal you have, it may be 2 years out. It may be, right, 2 or 3, it may be a long-term goal. So what you have to do is then figure out how much do I need to save every month in order to reach that goal. And it has to be realistic, right? It has to be a SMART goal, right? So we all know about SMART goals, but what you have to do is make sure that you actually spend some time planning, figuring out your goal, figuring out what your budget should be on a monthly basis, and then making sure that you use it. But it's like anything else, financially fit, physically fit, all of it comes down to discipline. And then, like you said, we're coming into the holiday season, the season of impulse, the season of temptation. We're coming into the holiday season where, this is the time for you where you're going to be tested. And if you already have a plan and a budget, man, it's going to be difficult to stick to it. But that's where you have to remind yourself what your goal is. Because if your goal, it could be for some people, if your goal was to save money and blow it all for the holiday season, right, and bring in 2024 the right way, then if that's your goal, that's great, but at least you plan for it. But most of us have a goal larger than that. You want to own your first home, right? You want to be able to start your business. You want some big life goals that you want for yourself. Then the holiday season is not a good enough reason in order to abandon that, because now you just push yourself in the hole and you got to climb back out of it. So having a goal is important. That's where the discipline is going to come from. And sticking, and also it helps. It helps to have a support system. It helps to surround yourself with people that are also working toward a goal of their own or have similar goals, so that you can check in and keep people on track. So when it comes to a budget, I think about, that's a conversation for the entire household, actually. Ooh. Like, that's something you can bring to the whole household, like to sit down at the table and actually to split everything down into your needs versus your wants. Like, let's have a very real conversation and put all of this stuff into a category of needs versus wants, because there's a formula that dictates how you should allocate your money, right? All things being equal, 50, 30, 20. There's a percentage of your money, of your income, of your earnings, and how you should allocate it. 50% towards your needs, food, clothing, shelter. We need food, clothing, shelter. 50, half of our money that we make typically is going to go to the food, clothing, and shelter that we need. This is always surprising to me. Then the 30%, the next largest percentage of allocation that you're allowed, is to your wants. It's to entertainment, it's to eating out, going to concerts, because you have to have a quality of life. 20% of it should go towards savings, investments, or paying down any debt that you have. So that's only 20% of the money that you make that you should set aside. Now, of course, that's where the discipline, that's where the sacrifice comes in, because if 30% of my money can go toward the things that I want, then why don't I turn the 30% into 15%? You know, I can take away from the things that I don't need to survive for a year or 2 years in order to sacrifice and make sure that I reach a larger goal. Even if it's something as simple as wanting to go on a luxury vacation, wanting to travel someplace nice with some white sand and blue water. Like, even a vacation could be something that you can say to yourself, listen, I need to get away, but I'm not going to do it. Look, the credit cards are already maxed out, but so whatever it is, make it something that you're reminded of regularly. Make it something that you want more than the impulse that you have at the moment.
I'm glad that you said that, especially around this time. And I want to, and I'm sorry, it's the funny part of me. You know how my brain works. I'm like, why does it have to be white sand and blue water? Why can't it be blue sand? And why? But I wanted to talk about credit cards, because that's a great point that you just made when you were talking about the 50%, right? And the 50% has to go to, all of the things that you have to pay, your food, shelter, you know what I mean? That's where everything is supposed to go, right? That's where the bulk of everything needs to go. But what I'm noticing is people are paying or using their credit cards so much that they're spending their bill, their paycheck on going out and enjoying themselves to the point where they have not saved any money. And now they have to use those funds, use their credit card to pay for their home or their car or whatever. So what are you seeing?
This is something that is true for this industry across the board, actually. When you're talking about money management, the financial services industry makes a ton of money by counting on your bad habits. They rely on it. That's why this information is so important, because the less you know about money, the less discipline you have around your money, the more that you are operating in desperation and overextending yourself and living beyond your means, the more that happens. That's what they rely on. They rely on your bad habits. They rely on all of it. So that's where, high interest comes into play. What I'm seeing is, let me just back up just a little bit about mentality and to wrap your mind around money. Credit was never really intended to be an addition to your income.
Say that one more time, please.
Credit was never created for it to be in addition to your income or the money that you have. Credit was always something that you would use knowing that you already have a plan to pay it back. So one of the ways that the wealthy use credit. They only use it other people's money. That's what they call it. No, I'm not using that. I'm using other people's money.
Right.
They call it other people's money.
OPM, that's what.
Oh, yeah, they call it other people's money. And what they mean by that is, I always use this example. This happened back in 2008 when the world economy collapsed. At the the banking system, the banks were responsible for collapsing the world economy. Well, guess what the banks did when they started to fail? They started to call in all of their lines of credit, all of the credit that they extend. I'm talking about the big companies, General Motors, to the airline industry, to the auto industry. They started to call in their lines of credit. The auto industry was not impacted by the collapse of the economy except for that, meaning they still were making millions, billions of dollars, but they themselves even went to the government for a bailout. And what they basically said was, we refuse to use our profits and the money that we earn in order to spend, in order to build the next line of vehicles, the next line of airplanes. We don't do that. We use other people's money, put the product out, and once we make money from our cars and our airplanes, that's what we'll pay the bank back. And that they follow that principle so tough that they even went for a bailout, even though they had money in the bank. So that's the way that credit is supposed to be used. It's used at the highest level in that way. Once you go to borrow money from the bank or use other people's money, don't do it until you already have a way to pay that money back. Use it for a reason. Already have a plan, right? And so credit cards, though, can be a great way to build yourself out of debt. So credit cards can be, if you use them wisely and know the system, and you use them wisely with some discipline, because credit cards, first of all, if you've never had credit, then credit cards are a great way to build and establish credit. But that's not most of us. Most of us turn 18 already with some utility, water bill in my name, cable bill went bad already. I'm just now 18. I already got bad credit. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you have to do is just figure out how to build, repair, and maintain your credit. But again, it goes first of all to understanding how credit works and how credit can impact you. I remember the first credit card I got for $500. I filled out something somewhere. I don't remember where it was at, but a credit card.
On a school campus.
Yeah, and a credit card came in the mail with $500, and I maxed it out quick and easy. Pair of shoes, expensive dinner. Look, $500 go quick. One day. I remember getting letters in the mail saying that I owed money. Mm-hmm. But, where we grew up, when you owe somebody money, man, it's somebody looking for you. Like, hey, man, so-and-so was just around here looking for you, man. Say you seen Bobby? He owed me $50, right? Somebody's
coming.
Right. Somebody's coming to look for you. Mm-hmm. So letters in the mail was not convincing enough for me to be able to pay back that credit card. And it wasn't until it was something that I wanted. It wasn't until I was going to move out or get my own apartment. And they told me that I couldn't move in because of my credit. I said, I don't even know I had credit. And then I went back and looked it up, and somebody showed me how I can pull my report. And I saw the credit card that I had been sold to another bank, and that $500 had turned into $3,000. And I'm like, what in the world? Listen, man, I bought some Timberland boots and ate some lobster at, what you talking about? I owe you $3,000, man. Right? So I think then trying to climb out of that hole, it takes so much time. But again, just to learn and understand how credit works, the different factors that make up credit, right? Late payments, using 30% above the available credit that's there for you, using we talked about late payments, credit utilization, also the different types of credit. So understanding the difference between a line of credit versus an installment loan, right? Understanding how your experience with credit matters. Credit is your reputation. Credit is your character, right? You talk about the different C's of credit. So understanding how credit can impact not just your ability to get some of the things you have, but also how much they're going to cost, because the bank is in the business of selling money. That's why they charge an interest. Like some people sell cars, some people sell clothes. The bank sells money. And
They sell your mortgage. They
they
sell
sell
your credit cards. They sell your everything. They sell your social security number. Like they sell everything. So yes, you are right. Sorry.
no, I mean, and that's exactly what they do. So knowing that they're selling it, and you have poor, they get paid off of your bad habits, because if your credit is not good enough, that means the interest rate they get to charge you is higher than everybody else,
Absolutely.
right? And your money and payment over time is going to be significantly larger. If you look at the amount of money that you would have to pay back on the high interest because your credit is poor, you just bought a vehicle, the vehicle costs $20,000, but because of the poor credit that you have and the high interest rate, look at that car is going to actually cost you twice as much, right? So there's a cost associated with it, but there's also the ability to be able to get some of the things that matter the most.
I was going to ask you a little bit about that because um, when it comes to kind of how they are looking at certain things that like, do they look at certain purchases? I know the answer to this, but I want to know for everybody who's watching, does the bank look at what you're purchasing? Does the bank um, look at how you're paying things back? So the first question is, do they look at what you purchase? So if I'm using my card and I buy some Tim's, do they care what I'm
Yes.
purchasing? Okay.
The bank doesn't care as much about what you're buying. Like you said, it's more important about how are you paying it back.
Okay. So explain that.
So again, we talked about late payments. First of all, if you borrow money, that's where it comes to. Credit sometimes is just boiled down to character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at your reputation and your experience with managing other people's money. If I have a credit card with a credit limit of $1,000 and I go out and I spend that $1,000, it doesn't matter what I spend it on, but now I'm going to give you a statement that requires you to make at least a minimum payment, right? And they also do that on purpose because if you just stick to the minimum payment based on the interest, you're going to be paying that $1,000 back for a longer period.
But does the minimum payment potentially mess up your credit score?
No. So making the minimum payment is what keeps you having on-time payments, which is the largest determining factor of your credit score. At least make sure you have on-time payments. When you don't make that minimum payment at least before the 30 days is up, then that's going to have a huge negative impact on your credit score, and it's going to sit there for almost 7 years.
Can I add something for everybody to know?
Yes.
Please, dear God, do not close out any credit card that you have. Any revolving lines, do not close them. Mm-hmm. Because to Jua's point, that you're making your minimum payments does affect your credit 100%. And that's one of the largest ways. The second will be your history. So getting rid of a card, closing out a card deletes your credit history. Mm-hmm. So if you've had one card for the last 500 years and then you close it, it's going to the next longest card, which could have been 1 year. So you just messed up all of that history that you've had. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Perfect. Listen, let's get all the information out there, because the other piece to it is the other determining factor of your credit score is how much of the credit are you. So we talked about $1,000 credit limit. Mm-hmm. If you spend all of that $1,000 and you're not paying back at least $300 of it, if you're 30% above the utilization of the money that's available to you, that's going to have a negative impact on your credit. Because they said, hey, listen, we gave you access to $1,000. You spent $1,000, but the fact that you can't even pay back at least 30% of it, and you have to carry that debt, makes it seem as though you don't have the ability to pay it back. So now your reputation and your character falters, your credit score is going to be lowered because you are now using more than 30% of the money that's available to you. So 30% utilization is the number. Whatever your credit limit or whatever the credit that's available to you, do not spend or carry more than 30% of that money, because it's going to have a negative impact on your credit. So while the minimum amount due protects your on-time payments, then what you want to also make sure you do is never have outstanding more than 30% of what's allowed to you.
Thank you for that, because a lot of people who are watching need it. People who are watching the replay are going to need that amazing nugget. The last thing that I want to talk about is family,
Mm.
right? Because you were talking about earlier how we have to bring the whole family in to, or the whole household into a financial conversation. And I personally don't like to say black households or white households or, any other households, however it works is how it works. I feel like a household is a household, right? But I got to put it out there. The black family does not talk about money. They don't talk about it, period, but they definitely don't talk about it enough, right? I know this because I've worked in the Potomacs of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the Anacastias of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I've noticed is in the Potomacs, they'll bring the child over and say, let me show you how much money mommy or daddy has in their bank account. In the
Mm-hmm.
Anacostia, and of course, Anacostia is completely different now than it was at one time. But, you know, in the Anacostia area, it would be a situation where you'd say, you sit over there, do not come over here. This is grown folks' business.
Grown folks' business. That's
This is
it.
grown folks'
It's
business.
grown folks' business.
And so what needs to happen is families need to know what is happening in the household as it relates to money. So can you please talk about that for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, we touched on it earlier when we were talking about needs versus wants. We were talking about using a budget and making sure that your budget is tied to a goal. So once you have a goal for yourself, then of course the family should be included in that. It should be something that the whole family can benefit from. Because if you sit folks down and explain to them why, you know, we may be going all internet, cable might have to be gone. I know y'all love it, but internet may be our sole form of entertainment going forward, especially, so the reason why you involve the entire family is because the entire family is going to have to make the sacrifice. Everybody's going to have to give up something. So if we start there, first of all, we're not giving it up just as a punishment. We're giving it up because there's something greater we're trying to achieve. That's why the goal, having a goal, explaining it and talking about it as a family, making sure that everybody's on board, it makes it a lot easier to make a sacrifice if you know that it's for something greater, something we all going to love and benefit from, even though it may not happen tomorrow. But listen, it's important. It's important that your goals are timely. Put the date on the refrigerator. Put a picture of what it is out there for everybody to see it. Track your progress. Sit around every week and talk about how close you are to your progress. Talk about what everybody is doing to contribute to being able to reach that goal. And so, yeah, it's also a great way then for your children to then start to learn about money and how it's important to start to think of, just change their mentality about money, right? Because when you're talking about family, talking about using the tools like budgets, spending, tracking your spending, cutting your spending by figuring out cheaper ways, right? I mean, even something as simple. A lot of folks, I'm working in financial services. A lot of people make their decisions, like we said, based off of social media. Marketing is powerful, right? I bet everybody here can tell me who the name of the lady for Progressive. People know her name.
You darn right, she took my job.
Flo. You know Flo.
Yes.
Everybody know Flo. My favorite is Mayhem. I love Mayhem. Y'all know Mayhem. When Mayhem come on the screens, I'm Mayhem. Mayhem messed everything up. The garage, the basketball court. We know the major insurance companies because we see them on television. So typically, if you talk to most people, that's the insurance company that they have. That's their insurance company of choice. But is that really the best option out there? Have you done any research? Have you found somebody cheaper? Have you figured out a way to cut your costs, to cut your spending by making some sacrifices and figuring out something that you can get somewhere else at a cheaper price, right? So, but the family should be included in those conversations. We're talking about, you got an iPad, you got a cell phone, you can actually make money off of one of those things, put it toward the goal that we're trying to reach, and we'll be that much closer. So having the conversation as a family is extremely important. Like I said, that needs versus wants conversation, it gets real. You know what I mean? You got to talk about, how fly do you want to be?
I
How
like
fly
that
do you
too.
want to be? Look, you can come
Right,
up.
eventually in the future, not necessarily
Right.
today.
Yeah.
Um, no, you know what? I'm really glad that we are having this discussion now because this tis the season to be creating your vision board, right? And money is definitely that. Like if you can see it, for a lot of people, if you can see it, you can do it. You can achieve it. And so this is an opportunity for everyone who's watching to start visualizing, number one, and start planning for what your 2024 is going to look like financially. Stop holding yourself back from whatever your dreams are and stop making dumb decisions. I'm not just talking to the people who are watching, I'm talking to myself. I have made some dumbass decisions financially, and I can honestly say that in the beginning, when I was in the college, I got a whole stack of credit cards, and I maxed them all out because that was the thing to do. It took me years to get from under that, right? Um, we all have been there. It's more so how we're going to get to where we're going. And so I will say that this is a great opportunity for you to start planning for your upcoming year. Mr. Williams, can you give me 1 second? Do you mind if I have a little quick mini commercial?
Of course.
Is
Of
that all
course.
right? Okay,
Of
so
course.
ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to put something out there. I wanted to let you all know that Ugly Girl Rage Therapy, which was going to be held on the 4th of December, has been canceled. We are going to look for another date, but it will be for next year. So I just wanted to put that out there. So anybody who was going to be coming, please don't. And if you already did purchase your ticket, you should have a refund by Friday of this week. So any questions or concerns that you may have, inbox me on the social media. So I just wanted to put that out there. So Jua, tell me how we can follow you.
Oh man. You can follow me on Twitter. Just look, Google me. No, I'm on Twitter, Jua Williams. I'm
Okay.
on Facebook, Jua Williams. I'm on LinkedIn, Jua Williams. Um, so Jua Williams everywhere.
So you,
Um,
you know it's called X now, right?
that lets you know how often I'm on there. But you're right, it is X. Uh, but yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, this is what I do. I love doing it. I love watching people to reach their goals, and like April said, I'm talking to myself, not just I'm not preaching. These are reminders for myself to be able to stay on track, to be able to be motivated, have a plan of action. So yeah, I mean, um, I do it professionally for banks, but then when the banks can't step in, I mean, I do this when I'm not at work. So I started a company that does job skills development, interviewing skills, networking, how to navigate the workplace, but also more importantly, just how to manage money and make money work for you. That's extremely important. So yes, indeed. Give my
Those
house.
of you who are in the DMV, I just want to put this out there because I know he won't. So those of you who are in the DMV, if you are looking for someone to come and maybe educate your church, educate your group, educate your family, please make sure that you follow him on the Facebook, on the Twitter, and make sure you hit him up on LinkedIn. So inbox him. I promise you, if he doesn't respond, just inbox me. I got you. And so if you need to find a way to reach me, I'm pretty much everywhere at aprilsanpay.com. It'll tell you how to get to me, but there you go. So, Jua, any final words that you want to leave anybody with?
Just to be able to remember, like, it's okay to be climbing out of a hole, because even if whatever progress you make, quite honestly, is starting to create a legacy for the loved ones that you have, that you're leaving behind, for those that are going to come after you. So, what we do as individuals affects our entire community and our entire village. The stronger that each one of us become, the stronger we are, the stronger families creates a stronger community. So just be purposeful about it. And even if it's something that you feel like you won't attain in life, you're starting the next step to leave that legacy, to leave that wealth behind. So it's all about wealth building, attaining some assets, and doing the right thing to be able to pass that on to those that you love. So, you know, that's it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. Real
Thank you
quick,
for having me.
we have one quick question before you go. What do you think about crypto certificates?
I'll be honest. I mean, it's not something that I have a lot of experience in, cryptocurrencies, because it's okay. I'll just say this very quickly. First of all, I'm not a licensed professional to give any type of investment advice, but I do follow a basic rule where they say invest in the things that you use, invest in the things that that you yourself use on a regular basis. So, I bought my nephew Nintendo stock because he plays video games, right? I invest in the Louis Vuitton Moet and Hennessy is on the stock market. And so, I'm a Hennessy drinker. So LVHNY. So I can't speak directly to crypto because I don't use it. I don't invest in it. And it's not because I have anything against it. It's just that I follow a principle of making sure that you spend your money where you spend your money. So I don't want to just wear Ralph Lauren because they have a big and tall section. I might as well also be investing and have a return on it. So those are my thoughts about that.
Well, we definitely appreciate you being here. We definitely appreciate all that you have provided for us. And I can't wait to have you back. You gonna come back?
Definitely, anytime. We only scratch the surface. We can do a deep dive next time,
Hey, all right. Listen, for joining. Have an amazing day on purpose. Be beautiful. Be blessed. Be as ugly as you can be. Bye.